Hello, friends. If you're curious about the movie The Blind Side, released in 2009, you're in the perfect place. Don't forget to give this video a quick like, it really helps us out. And if you're new here, hit subscribe to stay updated on all the latest movie deep dives. Let's jump right in. Sometimes, a single act of kindness can change a life forever. The Blind Side is a film that embodies that sentiment, telling a heartfelt and inspiring true story that captivated audiences worldwide. It's a movie that tugs at the heartstrings while delivering powerful messages about family, opportunity, and perseverance. Released in 2009 and directed by John Lee Hancock, this sports drama is based on the real-life journey of Michael O'Hare, a homeless African-American teenager who finds a home and a future thanks to the generosity of a wealthy white family, the Tuohys. From the moment the film begins, it immerses us in a world where two completely different lives intersect. On one side, there's Michael, a quiet and reserved teenager struggling to survive, moving from one foster home to another. On the other, there's Leigh Anne Tuohy, a fierce and compassionate woman who refuses to turn a blind eye to someone in need. Their paths cross in a way that feels almost fated, and what follows is a remarkable journey of transformation, resilience, and love. What makes The Blind Side so compelling is that it isn't just a feel-good underdog story. It's a deeply human tale about breaking down barriers. The film doesn't shy away from showing the realities of poverty, racism, and privilege, but it does so with warmth and optimism. It presents a world where kindness and determination can pave the way for incredible change. The story unfolds as Michael, nicknamed Big Mike, is admitted into Wingate Christian School despite his poor academic record. With no place to stay and a life full of uncertainty, he seems destined to slip through the cracks. But one fateful, cold night changes everything. Leigh Anne Tuohy spots Michael walking alone, wearing just a t-shirt in the freezing weather. Without hesitation, she invites him into her family's home, a decision that sets off a chain of events that will alter both their lives forever. Michael's transition into the Tuohy household is far from easy. He's never had a real bed before. He's not used to people caring about his well-being. And in a world where he's always been an outsider, trusting those around him feels unnatural. But Leigh Anne, with her unyielding determination and sharp wit, makes it clear that he is now part of their family, whether he believes it yet or not. As Michael slowly opens up, we see glimpses of his past. His mother struggling with addiction, his childhood filled with instability, and a deep-seated fear of being abandoned again. But for the first time, he has a support system. Leigh Anne becomes his biggest advocate, ensuring he gets the help he needs at school, challenging anyone who doubts his potential and pushing him toward greatness. And then, of course, there's football. Michael's imposing frame and natural athleticism catch the attention of the school's football coach, but talent alone isn't enough. He lacks confidence, understanding of the game, and the aggression needed to thrive on the field. That is, until Leigh Anne steps in once again, delivering one of the film's most memorable moments. Standing on the sidelines, she tells Michael to protect his teammates the way he would protect their family. It's a turning point. From that moment on, Michael's game transforms. He's no longer just playing. He's fighting for something bigger than himself. But just as Michael begins to find his place, new challenges emerge. College football recruiters swarm in, eager to sign him. Questions arise about whether the Tuohys have ulterior motives, whether Michael is being manipulated, and whether he truly belongs in this new life. These conflicts bring tension to the surface, forcing Michael to confront who he is and what he wants for his future. And that's where The Blind Side delivers some of its most powerful moments. At its core, this isn't just a movie about sports, it's about belonging. It's about breaking past stereotypes and proving that love, in its purest form, knows no color, no social class, no boundaries. By the time the film reaches its heartwarming conclusion, we're left with an overwhelming sense of hope. Michael O'Hare's journey from homelessness to the NFL is extraordinary, but what makes it truly unforgettable is the humanity at its center. With standout performances, especially Sandra Bullock's Oscar-winning portrayal of Leigh Anne Tuohy, The Blind Side isn't just a film you watch, It's a story you feel. It's a reminder of the profound impact one person can have on another's life and the unbreakable bonds that can form in the most unexpected ways. Michael O'Hare had spent most of his life on the fringes, moving from one foster home to another, never knowing stability, never feeling truly wanted. He was a giant of a teenager, physically imposing but emotionally withdrawn. To most people, he was invisible. That was, until the Tuohy family saw him. His life took a turn when, through a stroke of luck or fate, he was admitted to Wingate Christian School, a private institution full of privileged children who had never known hunger or homelessness. It was a world completely alien to him. Michael had no real academic record, no history of athletic participation, and no real home. He was an anomaly in the school hallways, a towering figure who spoke little and kept to himself despite the academic struggles that followed. There was something about Michael that intrigued his teachers. His aptitude for learning was hidden behind years of neglect, but it was there, waiting for the right opportunity to emerge. His teachers saw glimpses of potential, but many doubted whether he'd ever catch up to his peers. Most assumed he'd fade away, just another kid lost in the system. And then came that fateful cold night. It was Thanksgiving season, and the Tuohys, a wealthy, well-respected family, were driving home from their son S.J.'s school play. As they passed by, Leigh Anne Tuohy spotted something unusual on the sidewalk. A boy, huge, in a thin, worn-out t-shirt, was walking alone in the freezing cold. He had nowhere to go. Leigh Anne wasn't the type to ignore someone in need. Without hesitation, she told her husband, Sean, to stop the car. She stepped out and asked Michael a simple question. "Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Michael hesitated, unsure whether to admit the truth. Finally, he shook his head. Leigh Anne, with her no-nonsense attitude, didn't ask twice. "Come on, then," she said. And just like that, his life changed forever. That night, Michael slept under the Tuohy roof for the first time. What was meant to be a single night turned into a weekend, then a week, then something much more. Leigh Anne and Sean were well aware of what people would say, a wealthy white family taking in a homeless black teenager? But they didn't care about the whispers. They saw a boy who had been failed by the world too many times, and they weren't about to let it happen again. Michael, however, wasn't used to kindness. He tiptoed around the house, careful not to disrupt the life of this seemingly perfect family. The Tuohys lived in a mansion compared to the places he'd known. Warm beds, stocked refrigerators, a sense of security he had never imagined. But even with all this, he wasn't sure if he truly belonged. Slowly, though, the barriers began to fall. S.J., the Tuohy's youngest son, became Michael's closest companion, guiding him through school hallways, cracking jokes, and treating him like an older brother from day one. Collins, Leigh Anne's teenage daughter, surprised everyone by choosing to study alongside Michael instead of her popular friends. And Sean, though more reserved, found ways to connect, always making sure Michael felt part of the family. Leigh Anne, however, was the force that changed everything. She wasn't just offering Michael a place to stay, she was ready to fight for him. When she discovered that his academic record was barely enough to keep him in school, she didn't give up. She hired tutors, sat through meetings with teachers, and ensured that Michael had every opportunity to succeed. But school wasn't the only challenge. Michael's sheer size and strength had caught the attention of Wingate's football coach. At first glance, he saw potential. Michael was built like an athlete. But there was a problem. He didn't know how to play. Football wasn't something Michael had grown up with, and while he was physically capable, he lacked the aggression needed for the game. Practice after practice, Michael struggled. He was too gentle, too unsure of himself. That is, until Leigh Anne stepped onto the field. In one of the film's most defining moments, she marched up to Michael, pulled him aside, and gave him the simplest yet most profound piece of advice. "This team is your family. You protect them like you'd protect us." Something clicked. The next time Michael stepped onto the field, everything changed. He moved with purpose, his instincts sharpened by the one thing he understood better than anyone: protecting the people he loved. His transformation was immediate. His coaches watched in awe as he single-handedly bulldozed the opposing players. From that moment on, Michael wasn't just another kid struggling to fit in. He was a football player, a force to be reckoned with. But life wasn't as simple as football games and newfound family bonds. The world wasn't quick to accept the Tuohy's decision to take Michael in. People talked, classmates, teachers, even friends. Some whispered that Michael was only there because he could play football. Others questioned the Tuohy's intentions. Even Michael himself began to wonder. Was he truly part of their family? Or was he just another good deed, another charity case? These questions loomed as the football season took off and college scouts began circling like sharks, eager to recruit him. Suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of Michael O'Hare. And just when it seemed like his life was finally falling into place, everything threatened to unravel. The questions that had begun to stir in Michael's mind refused to go away. Whispers followed him in the school hallways, doubts crept into his thoughts, and even though the Tuohy's had given him more than he had ever known, he wondered if it was truly his to keep. The world had never been kind to him before. Why should now be any different? As football season gained momentum, Michael's skills on the field turned him into a rising star. College recruiters from top-tier universities lined up, eager to have him on their teams. But there was something else lurking beneath the surface, something that had nothing to do with football. The NCAA had taken notice of his rapid rise, and questions were being asked. Was Michael O'Hare's journey really just a story of kindness and opportunity? Or was there something else at play? It wasn't long before an investigator sat across from Michael, her expression unreadable as she asked the one question that had been weighing on him for weeks. Do you believe the Tuohy's took you in because they genuinely care about you? Or was it because they wanted you to play football for their alma mater, Ole Miss? Michael didn't answer right away. He couldn't. He hadn't allowed himself to entertain the thought, but now, faced with it directly, the doubt crept in. Every practice, every tutoring session, every moment with the Tuohy's, had it all been leading to this? Had they shaped his future for their own gain? The question shattered something inside him. Confusion twisted into anger, and for the first time since he'd stepped into their home, Michael pulled away. He disappeared from their house, their lives, slipping back into the shadows of Memphis. The streets welcomed him with familiar indifference, but they also held ghosts from his past. He found himself back in Hurt Village, the place he had spent years trying to escape. Old faces resurfaced, some welcoming, others dangerous. Among them was an old acquaintance, someone who had always been quick to remind Michael of where he came from. This man, full of resentment and cynicism, fed into Michael's doubts, twisting the kindness he had been shown into something manipulative. "They used you," he said. "You think they care? You're just another trophy to them." The words hit hard. And then, the moment everything boiled over, an argument turned physical. Fists flew. Michael, who had spent years restraining his strength, found himself lashing out. The anger, the confusion, the sense of betrayal, it all exploded in a single moment of raw emotion. But then, as quickly as it came, the rage drained away. He looked around, breathing heavily, realizing where he was, who he was with. This wasn't his life anymore. He didn't belong here. It was Leigh Anne who found him. She didn't scold him. She didn't plead. She simply stood there, her eyes fierce, unwavering. "You think I took you in for football," she said, her voice steady. "You think that's all you are to me?" Michael didn't know what to say. "You are my son," she continued, and there was no doubt in her voice. "And I will fight for you. Always." The weight of those words settled into him. For so long, he had struggled with the idea of belonging, of being wanted without conditions. But Leigh Anne had never treated him like a project. She had never once treated him like anything other than family. And family wasn't something you walked away from. With a renewed sense of clarity, Michael faced the NCAA investigator. He answered their questions, telling them exactly what they needed to hear, the truth. He wasn't forced to choose Ole Mississippi. He chose it because he wanted to. Because it was home. The investigation ended, and Michael moved forward. His grades improved. His future was no longer just a possibility. It was a reality. He graduated high school, stepping onto the stage in his cap and gown with the Tuohys cheering him on, proud of the boy they had taken in, proud of the man he had become. Then came the next chapter, college football. The journey wasn't over, not by a long shot. But this time, Michael stepped into it knowing exactly who he was. Not just a football player. Not just a kid who had been saved. But someone who had found his place in a world that had once tried to shut him out. And through it all, one thing remained unchanged. No matter where life took him, no matter what the future held, he would always have a home. Because family wasn't about where you came from. It was about who stood by your side, through the doubts, the struggles, the victories, and everything in between. Michael O'Hare wasn't a man of many words, but he didn't need them. His presence alone spoke volumes. Towering over most people, he moved with a quiet restraint, as if he was always holding something back. Not just his strength, but his emotions, his past, his fears. He had spent most of his life drifting, surviving, learning to exist without truly living. And yet, beneath that silent exterior, there was a heart so big it could barely be contained. Michael's journey wasn't just about football, nor was it simply a story of rags to riches. It was about self-discovery. When he first arrived in the Tuohy household, he was a boy without a voice. He didn't know how to ask for what he needed, didn't know if he even deserved to. But as time went on, his confidence grew, not just in his ability to protect others on the football field, but in his right to be loved, to belong. The transformation was subtle, but powerful. Every glance, every hesitant smile, every quiet moment of realization painted a picture of a boy who had been overlooked his entire life finally realizing that he mattered. Then there was Leigh Anne Tuohy, the unstoppable force that changed everything. She wasn't just a wealthy Memphis woman with a heart of gold. She was a warrior, fierce and unwavering. From the moment she saw Michael, alone and cold on the streets, she decided his fate would be different. Leigh Anne was never the type to back down, and when she set her mind on something, there was no changing it. But what made her remarkable wasn't just her determination, it was her love. She didn't just take Michael in, she fought for him, defended him, pushed him to see his own worth. Leigh Anne didn't coddle him. She didn't treat him as some charity project. She challenged him, made him uncomfortable when he needed to be, and in doing so, forced him to step into the world in a way he never had before. When she saw people doubting him, questioning whether he was truly a part of her family, she stood up and made it clear. Michael O'Hare wasn't just a guest in her home. He was her son. Sean Tuohy, Leigh Anne's husband, was a quieter presence, but no less important. He had a warmth to him, a way of making people feel at ease. He supported Michael in a different way, without fanfare, without big speeches, just with steady, unwavering acceptance. Sean had built his life on understanding the game of basketball, but when it came to Michael, he didn't need a playbook. He knew that what mattered most was simply being there, showing Michael that he had a place in their family, no questions asked. S.J., the Tuohy's youngest son, was the unexpected spark in Michael's life. Where others saw an intimidating giant, S.J. saw a big brother. He brought out a different side of Michael, the playful, protective side that had been buried under years of hardship. Their relationship wasn't just heartwarming. It was natural. S.J. believed in Michael's talent long before Michael did, coaching him, cheering him on, making sure the world saw what he saw, a superstar in the making. Collins Tuohy, Michael's adoptive sister, was proof that love isn't always loud. She didn't make grand gestures, didn't need to declare her loyalty in words. Instead, she showed it in the way she sat beside Michael at lunch when no one else would. In the way she made it clear, without hesitation, that he was her brother. Collins had her own social world, her own struggles, but when it came down to it, she never hesitated to choose Michael. Then there were the people who doubted, questioned, tried to tear Michael down. The NCAA investigator who planted seeds of doubt, making Michael wonder if the Tuohys had taken him in for their own benefit. The teachers who dismissed him before they even gave him a chance. The so-called friends from his past who wanted to remind him of where he came from, as if he didn't already carry those memories every single day. And yet, Michael didn't let their voices define him. He didn't let the doubts consume him. Instead, he did what he had always done. He endured. But perhaps one of the most important characters in Michael's story was the one he fought against the hardest, himself. The Michael at the beginning of the film and the Michael at the end were not the same person. At first, he was a boy who had learned to shrink himself to survive. By the end, he was a man who had learned to take up space, to stand tall, not just because of his size, but because he finally believed he had the right to be there. The Blind Side wasn't just a story about one extraordinary young man. It was a story about the people who saw past what the world expected of him and showed him who he could become. It was a story about love, not the easy kind, not the perfect kind, but the kind that fights, that endures, that chooses you even when you're struggling to choose yourself. The making of The Blind Side was as much a journey as the story it told. It was a film that had heart, and as with any project infused with real-life emotion, the process of bringing it to the screen had its own set of surprising, unexpected, and downright strange moments. From the casting process to behind-the-scenes anecdotes, there were moments that made the filmmakers stop and think, was fate somehow at play in telling this story? One of the most intriguing aspects of the production was the casting of Michael O'Hare. Finding the right actor to play him was no easy feat. Michael wasn't just big. He was massive, a gentle giant with a presence that couldn't be easily imitated. The filmmakers searched high and low for an actor who could capture not just his size, but his quiet, thoughtful nature. In a bizarre twist, Quinton, the actor who landed the role, wasn't even trying to audition for it at first. He was working as a security guard when someone suggested he try out. Quinton had no formal acting training, but he sent in a self-taped audition. When the director, John Lee Hancock, saw it, he immediately knew this was Michael. There was an authenticity in Quinton's performance that couldn't be faked. Then came Sandra Bullock, stepping into the role of Leigh Anne Tuohy. What's fascinating is that she almost didn't take the part. Sandra had built her career on romantic comedies and action films. This was different. She worried she wouldn't do justice to Leigh Anne, a woman with an incredible force of personality. But when she met the real Leigh Anne Tuohy, everything changed. The two women were eerily similar in ways Sandra hadn't expected. Leigh Anne was direct, no-nonsense, and fiercely protective of those she loved. Sandra later admitted that meeting Leigh Anne scared her a little, not because she was intimidating, but because she realized she had to do this role right. There was no faking. Leigh Anne's energy. Filming wasn't without its odd and unexpected challenges. One of the strangest moments came when the production crew tried to film the football sequences. They had real players on set, but the challenge was making the plays look cinematic without losing the authenticity of the game. And then, as if on cue, something strange happened. Real college football recruiters started showing up on set, drawn to the players who had been cast as extras. Some of these players ended up getting scouted for real college football programs, thanks to their appearances in the movie. The real Michael O'Hare had mixed feelings about the film. While he appreciated that his story was being told, he found certain elements strange, particularly the way his character was portrayed. The real Michael O'Hare had mixed feelings about the film. While he appreciated that his story was being told, he found certain elements strange, particularly the way his character was portrayed. The film made him seem as though he was completely unfamiliar with football when, in reality, he had been playing long before the Tuohys took him in. This led to one of the strangest side effects of the movie. Real-life football players, coaches, and even fans started assuming Michael was just a naturally gifted player with no formal training. In interviews, Michael often had to correct this misconception, explaining that he had worked incredibly hard to develop his skills long before he was ever in the spotlight. Another bizarre fact is how closely Sandra Bullock resembled Leigh Anne Tuohy, not just in personality but in looks. During production, people who knew Leigh Anne would accidentally call Sandra by her name, mistaking her for the real woman. The resemblance was so uncanny that even Leigh Anne's friends had to do a double take when they visited the set. This eerie similarity added to Sandra's pressure to get the performance right. And she did. In fact, it was so spot-on that Sandra Bullock won an Academy Award for Best Actress. Perhaps one of the most unexpected turns came after the film's release. Many assumed that the movie was just another feel-good Hollywood drama, but the truth was that it had real-life consequences. The story inspired countless people to look into fostering or adopting children in need. The Tuohy family received letters from families all over the country who had decided to open their homes to kids just like Michael. The film became more than just entertainment, it became a movement. And then there was the NFL draft scene. While it was meant to be a pivotal moment in the film, it also had a bizarre real-world twist. The moment Michael O'Hare was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens played out almost identically in real life. The emotions, the setting, the reactions, it was all nearly a mirror image of the actual event. This eerie parallel had fans rewatching both the film and the real-life footage, marveling at how life sometimes writes its own cinematic moments. Even the smallest details had their own strange stories. The real Collins Tuohy was actually an extra in the film. While Lily Collins portrayed her on screen, the real Collins appeared in the background of several school scenes, blending into the crowd. It was a subtle nod to the authenticity of the story. While it was dramatized for Hollywood, the real people were never far from the process. Then there was Tim McGraw, the country music star who played Sean Tuohy. While McGraw was already well known for his music career, many didn't realize he had an acting background. What was strange was how natural he was in the role. The quiet strength of Sean Tuohy fit McGraw perfectly, and for many viewers, it was a surprise to see the country star seamlessly step into the world of film. His performance was so understated yet effective that it left many wondering why he hadn't acted more often. Another unexpected fact? Sandra Bullock donated her entire salary from the film to charity. She was so moved by the real-life story that she wanted to give back in a meaningful way. She didn't just play a character who changed someone's life, she actively worked to make a difference herself. The production also had its moments of eerie coincidences. One of the most talked about was a scene where Michael O'Hare protects S.J. from a car accident. While it was a pivotal moment in the film, it was also based on a real-life event. The strangest part? The way it was shot and the way the real event happened were almost identical, down to the smallest details. When the Tuohys saw the scene, they were struck by how it felt like stepping back in time. But the biggest, most unexpected surprise of all was how The Blind Side became a cultural phenomenon. No one expected it to be as big as it was. It was a sports drama, a family film, an emotional journey, but it was also an underdog story in its own right. The film was made on a relatively modest budget, and while the team behind it believed in the story, they never expected it to become a massive box office hit. And yet it did. It resonated with audiences in a way that few films do, crossing barriers of race, class, and sports fandom. From chance encounters to unexpected career boosts, from eerie similarities to real-life inspirations, The Blind Side was filled with moments that made it feel like more than just a movie. It was as if fate itself had a hand in ensuring the story reached as many people as possible. And perhaps, in some strange, unexplainable way, it did. The Blind Side is more than just a sports drama. It's a film that walks the fine line between reality and storytelling, between inspiration and dramatization. At its core, it's a movie about change, about breaking through barriers, about how small acts of kindness can change a person's trajectory forever. But when you peel back the layers of its story, there's a deeper conversation happening. A conversation about privilege, race, family, and what it truly means to belong. One of the most significant moments in the film comes early on, when Leigh Anne Tuohy first notices Michael walking alone on the road, cold and unsure of where he's headed. It's a quiet but powerful scene. Up until this point, Michael has been almost invisible, not just to the Tuohys but to the world around him. The school administrators see him as a charity case, his teachers don't know what to do with him, and even the people in his neighborhood barely register his presence. But in this moment, Leigh Anne makes a choice. She doesn't look away. She stops, opens her car door, and invites him in. From a critical perspective, this scene is the emotional catalyst of the entire film. It's the moment that sets everything into motion, but it also raises an important question. Would Leigh Anne have done the same if Michael had been just another kid, rather than someone who stood out so starkly in her world? The movie presents Leigh Anne's kindness as instinctive, but critics have pointed out that the film doesn't fully address the complexities of racial and socio-economic power dynamics at play. While The Blind Side is often praised for its heartwarming message, it has also been critiqued for presenting a narrative that leans heavily on the white savior trope, a privileged white family rescuing a disadvantaged black youth. As Michael is gradually welcomed into the Tuohy family, the film leans into the idea of transformation, not just for Michael, but for the Tuohys themselves. One of the most compelling moments is when Leigh Anne confronts her friends at a lunch gathering. They casually, almost jokingly, question why she's taken in Michael, making veiled comments about how people like him don't belong in their world. Leigh Anne's response is swift and decisive. She makes it clear that Michael is part of her family now, and anyone who has a problem with that can keep it to themselves. This scene is a turning point, not just for Leigh Anne, but for the audience as well. It forces viewers to consider their own biases, to reflect on the silent prejudices that exist even in well-meaning communities. It's a moment of confrontation, not with grand speeches or dramatic outbursts, but with the quiet, unwavering strength of a woman who has made up her mind. It's also a reflection of the real Leigh Anne Tuohy's personality. She doesn't back down when she believes in something. Then there's Michael's journey itself, which is filled with quiet but profound moments of self-discovery. One of the most emotionally charged scenes comes when Michael is asked to write about his past for a school assignment. Instead of focusing on the hardships he's endured, he writes about family, what it means, what it should be, and how he's come to understand it through his time with the Tuohys. This moment is critical because it reframes Michael's story. He is not just a victim of circumstance, not just a boy who needed saving. He is someone who is actively finding his own sense of identity. The football sequences, while exhilarating and well executed, serve as more than just action-packed interludes. They are metaphors for Michael's journey. At first, he struggles. He doesn't quite understand how to channel his strength, how to use his size and power effectively. But then, when Leigh Anne pulls him aside and explains it in terms he can relate to, telling him to see his teammates as his family, to protect them the way he would protect S.J., something clicks. It's a defining moment, and from then on, Michael dominates the field. It's not just a triumph in football, it's a triumph of understanding. He has found his purpose, his place, and the confidence that had long been buried under years of neglect and uncertainty. One of the most interesting aspects of the film's reception is how audiences and critics interpreted Michael's portrayal. While many viewers saw his story as uplifting and inspiring, others questioned the way he was depicted, particularly his lack of dialogue and agency in certain scenes. There are moments when Michael feels more like an observer in his own story, with Leigh Anne taking center stage. This has led to debates about whether The Blind Side fully does justice to Michael O'Hare's real-life experiences. Michael himself has been vocal about his feelings toward the film. While he appreciates the attention it brought to his journey, he has expressed frustration over the way it depicted his football knowledge. In reality, Michael wasn't clueless about the game when he was taken in by the Tuohys. He had been playing for years and had a deep understanding of the sport. The film, however, presents him as a raw, inexperienced player who needed guidance from his new family to succeed. This artistic choice made for a more dramatic transformation arc, but it also reinforced a narrative that didn't fully align with reality. The climax of the film is as emotional as it is inevitable. Michael, now a star player, is being courted by top college football programs. But just as everything seems to be falling into place, a new conflict arises. Questions about whether the Tuohys had a hidden agenda in helping him. An investigator suggests that they steered Michael toward Ole Miss because of their ties to the school, implying that their kindness had ulterior motives. It's a gut-punch moment, one that shakes the very foundation of the relationship Michael has built with his adoptive family. This moment is significant because it challenges the easy, feel-good narrative. It forces both Michael and the audience to consider the complexity of the situation. Did the Tuohys help Michael purely out of love, or was there an underlying expectation attached? The film ultimately resolves this conflict by reaffirming the Tuohys' genuine care for Michael, but it's a necessary moment of doubt, one that adds depth to the story and prevents it from being overly simplistic. By the time the film reaches its final moments, with Michael heading off to college and the Tuohys watching proudly, it has come full circle. He is no longer the lost, silent boy walking alone in the cold. He is a young man with a future, with a family, with an identity he can claim as his own. Looking at The Blind Side through a critical lens, it's clear that its impact extends beyond the screen. It sparked conversations about race and privilege, about adoption and sports, about how we tell true stories and whose perspectives are centered in those narratives. It's a film that made people feel deeply, whether through admiration, inspiration, or in some cases, discomfort with the questions it raised. At its best, The Blind Side is a film about transformation, not just Michael's, but everyone around him. It challenges perceptions, invites self-reflection, and ultimately delivers a message about the power of human connection. Whether seen as a heartwarming success story or a film that simplifies deeper social issues, one thing is undeniable. It left an impression. And perhaps that, more than anything, is what makes it truly memorable. The making of The Blind Side was just as compelling as the story it told. Behind every scene, every carefully crafted moment, there was a team of dedicated filmmakers working tirelessly to bring Michael O'Hare's journey to life. But like any production, it wasn't without its challenges, surprises, and moments of pure serendipity that made the film even more special. John Lee Hancock, the director, had a clear vision from the start. He wanted the movie to feel real, to be grounded in authenticity, and to capture the essence of the Tuohy family's unconventional yet deeply moving story. To achieve this, he insisted on a balance, staying true to the heart of Michael O'Hare's journey while crafting a film that would engage audiences on an emotional level. One of the first major tasks was casting. The role of Leigh Anne Tuohy was critical, as she was the driving force of the narrative. Sandra Bullock was approached early on, but she was hesitant. She wasn't sure if she could do justice to the role, especially given the strong, outspoken nature of the real Leigh Anne. It took some convincing, but once she met the Tuohy family, everything changed. She saw firsthand just how fiercely protective and no-nonsense Leigh Anne was, and that meeting became the turning point. Bullock's transformation into Leigh Anne wasn't just about getting the accent right, though she nailed the southern twang perfectly. It was about capturing the essence of a woman who didn't take no for an answer. To prepare, Bullock spent time with Leigh Anne, observing her mannerisms, her direct way of speaking, even the way she carried herself in a room. The result was a performance so authentic that even the real Tuohy family admitted they sometimes forgot they were watching an actress. Then there was the task of casting Michael O'Hare. This was arguably even more challenging. The role required someone who could physically embody the character's imposing presence while also delivering a performance filled with quiet depth and vulnerability. The filmmakers found their perfect Michael in Quinton. At the time, Aaron was an aspiring actor with limited experience, but he had something undeniable, a presence that commanded attention even in silence. During filming, Aaron's natural kindness and humility made him a perfect fit for the role. Off-screen, he formed a strong bond with the cast, particularly with Jay Head, who played S.J. Their chemistry was real, and it translated beautifully on screen. Some of their most charming scenes together, including the famous S.J. coaching Michael sequence, were made even more authentic because of their genuine friendship. Filming the football scenes was another challenge. To make them look as real as possible, the production team enlisted the help of real football players and coaches. Many of the high school football players in the movie were actual athletes, which added to the authenticity of the game sequences. And it wasn't just about looking the part. Aaron had to learn how to move like a football player, how to take hits, how to convincingly perform on the field. He worked extensively with choreographers to ensure that every tackle, every block, looked completely believable. But not everything went according to plan. There was one scene in particular that proved difficult to shoot, the moment where Leigh Anne storms onto the football field to lecture Michael about protecting his team. The energy had to be just right, and Bullock had to strike the perfect balance between being fierce and motherly. On one take, she got so into character that she actually startled some of the young football players. Their reactions in the scene? Completely genuine. Another interesting behind-the-scenes moment came during the filming of one of the emotional family scenes. The Tuohy's home, so central to the story, needed to feel warm and lived in, like a real family space. Instead of constructing elaborate sets, the filmmakers opted to shoot in an actual home in Atlanta, Georgia. The house became such a central part of the film's identity that even after production wrapped, some fans sought it out, hoping to catch a glimpse of where the Tuohy's story unfolded on screen. Speaking of authenticity, one of the most unique aspects of the film was its use of real-life college coaches. Instead of hiring actors to play them, the filmmakers managed to get actual NCAA coaches to appear in the recruitment scenes. This decision added an extra layer of realism, making the process of Michael's journey to college football feel even more true to life. The emotional weight of the story wasn't just felt by the audience, it impacted the cast and crew as well. There were moments on set where even the toughest, most seasoned members of the team found themselves moved. One such moment came when Quinton filmed the scene where Michael writes his school essay about family. As he delivered his lines, there was an undeniable stillness on set. Even the crew members, who had seen the scene rehearsed multiple times, found themselves tearing up. But for all its serious, emotional moments, there were plenty of light-hearted ones, too. Bullock, known for her humor, kept the mood on set playful. She would often joke with her co-stars between takes, and her bond with the actors playing the Tuohy children was particularly strong. She and Tim McGraw, who played Sean Tuohy, developed an easygoing dynamic, much like the real-life couple they portrayed. Of course, making a movie always comes with its fair share of unexpected challenges. Weather played a factor in several outdoor scenes, forcing the crew to work around unpredictable rainstorms. There were also logistical hurdles. Coordinating the large-scale football sequences required extensive planning, from setting up the perfect camera angles to ensuring player safety during tackles. Despite these obstacles, the film came together beautifully, thanks in no small part to the dedication of everyone involved. When it was finally completed and screened for test audiences, the reactions were overwhelmingly positive. People connected deeply with the story, and it was clear that The Blind Side had struck an emotional chord. When the movie was released in 2009, it quickly became a box office success. Made on a budget of around $29 million, it went on to gross over $300 million worldwide, a staggering achievement for a drama. Audiences were captivated by the story, and the film's message of love, resilience, and second chances resonated with viewers of all backgrounds. Sandra Bullock's performance was particularly lauded, earning her an Academy Award for Best Actress. It was a career-defining moment for her, solidifying her place not just as a talented comedic actress, but as a powerhouse in dramatic roles as well. The real Leigh Anne Tuohy, watching from the audience that night, was filled with pride, not just for the movie, but for the way it had touched so many lives. Years later, The Blind Side remains one of the most beloved sports dramas of all time. It's a film that continues to inspire, to spark conversations, and to remind people that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change everything. And for those who were part of its making, the journey behind the scenes was just as unforgettable as the story they brought to life on screen. The world of The Blind Side is more than just a backdrop, it's an essential piece of the film's storytelling. From the bustling energy of a high school football field under the Friday night lights to the warmth of the Tuohy family home, every location was carefully chosen to immerse the audience in Michael O'Hare's journey. The setting itself carries emotions, mirroring the film's central themes of belonging, transformation, and hope. At the heart of the story is Memphis, Tennessee, the city where Michael's real-life journey unfolded. But for practical filming reasons, most of The Blind Side was shot in Atlanta, Georgia. The decision wasn't just about logistics, it was about finding locations that would authentically represent the stark contrast between the different worlds Michael moves through. One of the most striking contrasts in the film is between Michael's early life and the privileged world he is later welcomed into. The opening scenes place him in a struggling, run-down neighborhood. The filmmakers chose real-life impoverished areas to reinforce the sense of hardship Michael faced daily. The cinematography here is deliberately muted, with a cooler, desaturated color palette. The streets are dimly lit, the buildings worn, and the mood heavy. These visual choices amplify Michael's isolation, showing how he has learned to navigate a world where survival is the priority. The framing often positions Michael alone in the shot, emphasizing how small and out of place he feels in his surroundings. This visual loneliness is shattered when he steps into the Tuohy family's world. Their home, a stunning, spacious house with warm lighting and inviting decor, immediately contrasts with the bleak environment Michael comes from. The real Tuohy home wasn't used for filming, but the set designers recreated an atmosphere that felt just as personal and lived in. Every detail in the house tells a story, from the polished furniture to the cozy, family-centered spaces. Unlike Michael's previous environment, which was often dim and shadowy, the Tuohy home is bathed in soft, golden hues, symbolizing the warmth and security he finds there. The way Michael is framed within these different settings is a subtle but powerful storytelling tool. In the early scenes, he is often filmed from a distance, a lone figure against an overwhelming environment. As he integrates into the Tuohy household, the shots become more intimate. He's now positioned within family spaces, included in group shots, no longer isolated. It's a visual representation of his slow but meaningful transition from outsider to family member. Beyond the home, another crucial setting is the school. Wingate Christian School, where Michael enrolls, is depicted as an entirely different world from what he's used to. The bright hallways, orderly classrooms, and polished sports facilities all serve to highlight the gap between his past and his present. The cinematography here maintains a balance. While the school is clearly an intimidating place for Michael at first, it never feels unwelcoming. The wide shots emphasize his initial discomfort, but as the film progresses, we see him becoming more at ease, symbolizing his growing sense of belonging. Of course, the football field itself plays a starring role in the film. It's more than just a setting, it's the stage for Michael's transformation. The first time we see him in action, the cinematography mirrors his hesitation. The camera lingers on his uncertainty, the quick cuts highlighting the aggression of his opponents and his struggle to find his footing. But as he gains confidence, the visual storytelling shifts. The shots become steadier, the camera movements more dynamic, and the lighting even seems to glow a little brighter. The film uses slow-motion sequences to emphasize Michael's growth. Every block, every tackle becomes a moment of triumph. The football scenes are filmed with high energy, using rapid editing and immersive sound design to put the audience right in the middle of the action. Speaking of sound, the film's use of music and audio plays a crucial role in shaping its atmosphere. The score, composed by Carter Burwell, is understated yet deeply emotional. It doesn't overpower the story. Instead, it subtly enhances key moments. The use of soft piano melodies during intimate family scenes adds warmth, while the more intense orchestral swells during football sequences create tension and excitement. But just as important as the music is the use of silence. Some of the film's most powerful moments, such as when Michael writes his essay about family, are accompanied by minimal sound, allowing the emotions to take center stage. Lighting also plays a critical role in establishing the film's tone. Early in the movie, the lighting in Michael's world is often harsh, with deep shadows and cold tones reflecting his struggles. But as he enters the Tuohy household, the lighting becomes softer, more golden, mirroring the emotional warmth of his new home. This shift isn't just a stylistic choice, it's a visual representation of Michael's changing life. One particularly clever cinematographic choice comes in the way the film frames its characters. Leigh Anne Tuohy, played by Sandra Bullock, is frequently positioned as a commanding presence in the frame. She is often filmed in close-ups during key moments, emphasizing her fierce determination and unwavering confidence. This contrasts with Michael's initial framing, where he is often positioned at the edges of the frame, reinforcing his feelings of being an outsider. But as the story progresses, he moves closer to the center of the frame, reflecting his growing sense of self-worth and belonging. Another fascinating element of The Blind Side is how it uses real-world locations to ground the story in reality. The film doesn't rely on overly stylized sets or exaggerated Hollywood gloss. Instead, it embraces a more naturalistic approach. The Tuohy home, the school, the football fields, they all feel real and lived in, which makes the emotional beats hit even harder. Perhaps one of the most impactful visual elements in the film is the way it portrays Michael's physicality. He is an imposing figure, but the cinematography ensures that his size is never just about intimidation, it's also about vulnerability. There are moments where the camera angles emphasize his stature to highlight his strength on the field, but there are also moments where his size contrasts with his gentle nature, reminding the audience that he is still just a young man searching for his place in the world. The film's color palette also plays a subtle yet significant role in its storytelling. The muted tones of Michael's early life gradually give way to richer, more vibrant colors as he finds a home with the Tuohys. The warmth of the Tuohy household is visually reinforced by its inviting, golden hues, while the blues and grays of Michael's past remain a stark reminder of where he came from. Ultimately, the setting and cinematic elements of The Blind Side do more than just support the story, they elevate it. Every location, every lighting choice, every camera movement is carefully crafted to reflect the emotional journey at the heart of the film. From the isolation of Michael's early life to the warmth of his newfound family, the visual storytelling speaks volumes, making his transformation all the more powerful. It's a testament to the filmmakers' attention to detail and their commitment to telling a story that feels not just cinematic, but deeply human. The making of The Blind Side was just as inspiring as the story it told. While the film carried deep emotional weight, behind the scenes, the set was filled with moments of laughter, camaraderie, and a shared passion for telling Michael O'Hare's remarkable journey. The cast and crew bonded over long filming days, tackled unexpected challenges, and found themselves deeply moved by the real-life events that shaped the movie. Sandra Bullock, who played Leigh Anne Tuohy, was the undeniable force both on and off the set. From the very beginning, she was determined to do justice to the real Leigh Anne, a woman with an unstoppable personality and a heart as fierce as her determination. To prepare for the role, Bullock spent time with Leigh Anne Tuohy herself, studying her mannerisms, her southern drawl, and her take-charge attitude. She was so committed to nailing the role that at one point, she even considered walking away from the film, afraid she wouldn't do the real Leigh Anne justice. It wasn't until she spent more time with the Tuohy family that she found the confidence to fully embrace the character. One of the most surprising things about the production was how quickly the cast and the real-life figures they portrayed became close. Quinton, who played Michael O'Hare, had never met the real Michael before filming, but their lives had some striking similarities. Like Michael, Quinton had faced struggles growing up, and the role was deeply personal to him. The first time he met Sandra Bullock, he was nervous, but Bullock instantly put him at ease, treating him like family both on and off the set. Quinton's casting was a story in itself. The filmmakers needed someone who could not only physically embody Michael O'Hare but also bring the emotional depth required for the role. When Quinton walked into the audition, his quiet strength spoke louder than words. He wasn't just playing Michael, he understood him. But there was one small problem. Quinton wasn't a football player. Unlike the real Michael, who was a natural athlete, Quinton had never played football before. That meant he had to go through an intense training regimen to make sure his movements on the field looked authentic. Former football players were brought in to coach him, and some of the football scenes took hours to get just right. Filming the football sequences came with its own set of challenges. The actors playing opposing players weren't holding back. Some of those tackles were real, and Quinton felt every bit of it. At one point, after taking hit after hit, he joked that he wasn't sure if acting was worth getting tackled for. But through sheer perseverance, he nailed the movements, and by the time the cameras were rolling for the big game scenes, he looked like he had been playing football for years. One of the most emotional days on set was when the cast and crew filmed the scene where Michael O'Hare writes his essay about family. It was a quiet moment in the film, but one that carried so much weight. The entire set was hushed as Quinton delivered his lines, and by the time the scene was finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Director John Lee Hancock later said that moments like those reminded everyone why they were telling this story, to show the power of love, family, and second chances. Sandra Bullock's connection to the film became even more personal when she met the real Michael O'Hare. Unlike Leigh Anne Tuohy, who is bold and outspoken, Michael was quiet and reserved, but Bullock was immediately struck by his kindness. She later admitted that meeting him deepened her commitment to the film even more. She wanted to make sure that The Blind Side wasn't just another sports drama but a story that honored the real people behind it. That dedication paid off in ways no one expected. The film's impact stretched far beyond the set. It resonated with audiences around the world. But the filming itself wasn't always smooth sailing. The weather became an unexpected obstacle during production. Some of the football scenes were filmed in sweltering heat, making it difficult for the actors in full gear to stay comfortable. In one instance, Quinton nearly suffered heat exhaustion and had to take breaks between takes to cool down. The crew had to work around the conditions, adjusting schedules and ensuring that no one pushed themselves too hard. Then there were the emotional challenges. Many of the scenes required the actors to dig deep into difficult emotions. The moment where Michael is turned away from his mother's door was particularly hard to film. Quinton later revealed that he pulled from personal experiences to bring authenticity to the scene, and when it was over, he needed a moment to compose himself. Sandra Bullock, always looking out for her co-stars, checked in on him, making sure he was okay before moving on. The chemistry between the cast was undeniable, and it wasn't just between Bullock and Aaron. Tim McGraw, who played Sean Tuohy, brought a natural warmth to the set, often cracking jokes to keep spirits high. Lily Collins, who portrayed Collins Tuohy, formed a close bond with Quinton, and the two would often run lines together off-camera. The youngest member of the Tuohy family, S.J., played by Jay Head, was a scene-stealer in the film, and off-screen, he was just as energetic. He and Quinton became good friends, often goofing around between takes and keeping the atmosphere light. Despite the challenges, the film came together beautifully, and the cast knew they had created something special. Sandra Bullock had been hesitant about taking the role, but it ended up being one of the most defining performances of her career. When the film wrapped, she walked away with not just a deeper appreciation for the story but also a newfound respect for the real people behind it. And of course, the hard work paid off in a big way. The Blind Side became a box office success, grossing over $300 million worldwide. But perhaps the greatest reward was knowing that it had touched so many lives. People reached out to the Tuohy family, inspired by their story. Some even shared how the film had motivated them to take in foster children or help those in need. It was proof that a movie could be more than entertainment. It could change lives. Looking back, The Blind Side wasn't just a film about football. It was a film about love, resilience, and the power of kindness. And behind the scenes, the cast and crew experienced those same lessons firsthand. Through laughter, challenges, and unforgettable moments, they came together to bring a story to life, one that would leave a lasting impact on audiences everywhere. At its core, The Blind Side is more than just a sports drama or a feel-good family film. Beneath the story of Michael O'Hare's journey from homelessness to success, the film explores deep and powerful themes that resonate far beyond the football field. Through its characters, setting, and visual storytelling, The Blind Side weaves together messages of love, resilience, privilege, race, and family. each playing a crucial role in shaping the heart of the film. One of the most dominant themes in the film is the idea of family beyond blood. Michael O'Hare enters the Tuohy household as a stranger, yet over time, he becomes a son, a brother, and an inseparable part of their lives. Leigh Anne Tuohy, played with fierce determination by Sandra Bullock, is at the center of this transformation. She doesn't just take Michael in, she fights for him, defends him, and believes in him when no one else does. But what makes this theme so powerful is that their bond isn't formed instantly. There's hesitation, there's awkwardness, and there are moments of doubt. The film shows that family isn't just about shared DNA. It's about showing up for one another, about love that is earned through actions rather than words. This theme is beautifully symbolized in several key moments. One of the most poignant is when Michael finally calls Leigh and Mom. It's a simple word, but it carries the weight of everything they've been through together. He doesn't say it out of obligation. He says it because he finally feels like he belongs. The slow transformation of their relationship, from guardian and ward to mother and son, is the emotional core of the film, proving that love has no boundaries. Closely tied to the theme of family is the idea of privilege and race. Michael O'Hare, a young black man from a troubled past, is brought into a world of wealth, education, and opportunity. The contrast between his old life and the Tuohy family's privileged existence is stark. The film doesn't shy away from this, showing the discomfort, the unspoken judgments, and the challenges that come with crossing those social boundaries. Leigh and herself faces scrutiny from her friends, who question why she would take in someone like Michael. Her response, one of the most memorable lines in the film, is sharp and direct, "Shame on you." This theme is also reflected visually. The cinematography often positions Michael as an outsider in the early parts of the film, emphasizing how different his world is from the one he's stepping into. But as he grows more comfortable, the framing changes. He is no longer on the fringes of the shot. He is in the center, a part of the family, visually reinforcing his acceptance. Another powerful theme is self-worth and personal transformation. Michael starts the film as a young man who has been repeatedly told that he doesn't matter. His grades are poor, his confidence is low, and he doesn't see himself as someone who deserves success. But as the film progresses, he slowly begins to realize his own worth. One of the most symbolic moments in this journey comes during football practice. Michael struggles at first, unsure of how to assert himself on the field. Then Leigh Anne steps in, giving him advice that changes everything. "This team is your family, Michael. You protect them like you protect us." It's a turning point. Suddenly, football isn't just a game. It's an extension of everything he's learning about family, belonging, and strength. When he steps back onto the field, he dominates, proving to himself and everyone else that he is capable, strong, and deserving of success. This transformation is also symbolized through the recurring motif of the protective instinct. Michael's defining characteristic is his desire to protect those he cares about. This is revealed in one of the most emotionally charged scenes, when he instinctively shields SJ from a car accident. It's a moment of pure instinct, a symbol of the love and care he has for his new family. The act of protection goes both ways. Just as Michael protects the Tuohys, they protect him, fighting for his education, his future, and his place in the world. The theme of education and opportunity is another crucial aspect of the film. Michael's academic struggles are a major obstacle, and without the support of the Tuohys, his future would have looked very different. The film emphasizes the power of education, not just in terms of school, but in the broader sense of having someone believe in you, push you, and help you reach your full potential. Miss Sue, Michael's tutor, becomes a symbol of this idea. She doesn't just teach him facts, she teaches him confidence, showing him that he is capable of succeeding in a world that has often told him otherwise. Symbolism is woven throughout the film in ways both subtle and overt. One of the most striking symbols is the bed. When Michael first comes to the Tuohy house, Leigh Anne shows him to his room and tells him it's his. He stands in the doorway, silent and overwhelmed. Finally, he turns to her and says, "I've never had one before." At first, Leigh Anne assumes he means his own room, but then she realizes he's never had a bed. The bed becomes more than just furniture. It symbolizes stability, safety, and the idea that for the first time in his life, Michael has a place that is truly his. Another significant symbol is the football field itself. At the beginning of the film, it represents something Michael doesn't fully understand, a world of aggression, competition, and expectations he doesn't feel ready for. But by the end, it becomes a place where he proves himself. The football field transforms from an unfamiliar battlefield into a place where he finds his strength, mirroring his personal journey. The film also plays with visual contrasts to reinforce its themes. The difference between Michael's past and present is stark. His childhood home is dark, chaotic, and unstable, while the Tuohy home is warm, structured, and full of love. Even the wardrobe choices reflect this change. In the beginning, Michael wears oversized, worn-out clothes that make him look lost in his own body. As he gains confidence, his clothes fit better, symbolizing how he is stepping into himself, both physically and emotionally. Another visual cue is the use of space in the framing of scenes. Early on, Michael is often positioned alone in large, empty spaces, emphasizing his isolation. But as he integrates into the Tuohy family, the framing becomes tighter. He is surrounded by people, included in group shots, showing his gradual acceptance into their world. Perhaps the most powerful takeaway from the film is the theme of human kindness and the ripple effect of small actions. Leigh Anne didn't have to stop for Michael that night on the road. She didn't have to invite him in or fight for him the way she did. But she chose to, and that single choice changed not just Michael's life but the lives of everyone around him. The film reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference, that one act of kindness can set off a chain reaction that transforms lives. Ultimately, The Blind Side isn't just about football or family or overcoming adversity. It's about the ways we impact each other, the ways we lift each other up, and the ways love can come from the most unexpected places. Through its themes and symbolism, the film delivers a message that lingers long after the credits roll. Sometimes, all someone needs is a chance, and when given that chance, they can change the world. In creating The Blind Side, director John Lee Hancock and his creative team employed a variety of filmmaking techniques that not only enhanced the movie's emotional depth but also shaped the atmosphere, immersing the audience in Michael O'Hare's personal journey. These techniques, from the subtle yet effective use of sound to dynamic editing and precise camera work, all contributed to the movie's success in resonating deeply with viewers. First and foremost, The Blind Side is a film driven by emotional narrative. At its core, it's a story about family, love, and perseverance. The filmmakers knew that the heart of this story needed to feel authentic and impactful. With this in mind, the filmmaking techniques were chosen to emphasize those emotions and to make the audience feel the weight of Michael's struggles and triumphs. The film's pacing, combined with its visual storytelling, allows the audience to experience Michael's world in a deeply personal way. One of the most distinctive filmmaking choices in The Blind Side is the way the camera is used to emphasize the isolation and transformation of Michael. Early on, cinematographer Alar Kivalo employs wide shots to visually convey Michael's sense of being alone in the world. His figure is often placed in the distance, dwarfed by the environment around him, whether it's a desolate street or an empty gymnasium. These wide shots not only highlight his loneliness but also set the tone for the emotional distance between Michael and the world around him. This sense of isolation is key to understanding his journey. It tells the audience that Michael isn't just a physical outsider, but that he feels disconnected emotionally, unable to see a way forward. As the film progresses, the camera work shifts, subtly reflecting Michael's transformation. Close-up shots become more frequent, and in these moments, the camera tends to linger on Michael's face, capturing the uncertainty in his eyes as he starts to open up to the Tuohys. There's a sense of intimacy in these moments. Viewers are invited to connect with Michael as he connects with his new family. This transition from wide to close shots visually mirrors his journey of moving from a place of isolation to one of belonging. The cinematography also plays with the physical space of the Tuohy home. As Michael becomes a part of their family, the frame tightens around him. Early in the film, there's a deliberate sense of detachment between Michael and the Tuohys. He's often shown in separate, isolated spaces, his room, his own seat at the dinner table. But as his relationship with the family deepens, those spaces shrink. By the end of the film, Michael is no longer confined to the outskirts of the frame. The spaces in which he exists, whether it's on the field or around the dinner table, become more inclusive. His sense of belonging is reinforced visually. The use of sound is equally important in The Blind Side and helps to shape its atmosphere. The film's score, composed by Carter Burwell, is subtle but deeply effective. The music never overtakes the emotional moments but instead complements them, adding a layer of depth. The score's gentle piano melodies often play during key moments of personal reflection for Michael, and they help emphasize the introspective journey he's undergoing. The music swells during moments of triumph or struggle, reinforcing the emotions of the scene without overwhelming them. In addition to the score, diegetic sound plays a crucial role in drawing viewers into Michael's world. The sounds of football, clattering helmets, roaring crowds, the sharp whistle of the coach, are used to create a sensory experience that places the audience in the middle of the action. These sounds are most prominent during the football sequences, but they are also present in quieter moments, where they provide contrast. For example, when Michael is in the quiet of his room or in the safety of the Tuohy home, the absence of background noise serves to emphasize the sense of calm and stability he is beginning to find in his new life. The use of editing is also a key aspect of the film's pacing and emotional impact. The editing in The Blind Side is relatively straightforward, but it is the way it's applied that keeps the film grounded in reality. The transitions between scenes are often seamless, keeping the narrative flowing without disruption. The film doesn't rely on quick cuts or flashy edits but instead allows each moment to breathe, giving the audience time to absorb the emotion of each scene. This slow, methodical pacing is particularly evident during the scenes between Michael and the Tuohy family, where the filmmakers allow the relationships to develop organically. In the football sequences, however, the editing style shifts dramatically. During Michael's first few games, the editing mirrors his confusion and struggles. The cuts are fast and erratic, creating a sense of chaos and uncertainty. But as Michael gains confidence, the editing becomes steadier, more controlled. This change in rhythm conveys Michael's growing sense of control and mastery, not only on the football field but in his life as well. The camera work and editing during these sequences are a visual representation of his growth, reinforcing the theme of personal transformation. Another noteworthy aspect of the editing is how it ties into the film's structure. The flashbacks to Michael's childhood, showing his difficult past, are seamlessly woven into the present-day narrative. These brief glimpses into Michael's earlier life provide context and help the audience understand the depth of his struggles. The editing here is particularly effective, using quick, jarring cuts to illustrate the harshness of Michael's early years. The contrast between these flashbacks and the more peaceful, hopeful moments of his life with the Tuohys underscores the significance of his transformation. The football scenes also incorporate a lot of action and movement, and the use of camera angles helps to build excitement and intensity during these sequences. The filmmakers often use dynamic tracking shots to follow Michael's movements on the field, giving the audience a sense of speed and urgency. When Michael makes a key play or an impressive block, the camera moves with him, emphasizing the physicality of the sport and the stakes involved. This dynamic camera work is a sharp contrast to the quieter, more intimate shots used during the family scenes, and it heightens the tension of the football sequences. There's also a subtle use of slow motion during some of the key moments in the film, particularly during the football games. These moments are often accompanied by the swelling music of the score, turning them into emotional high points. When Michael makes a game-changing play or shows his protective instinct on the field, slow motion is used to let the moment sink in. This technique gives the audience the chance to appreciate the significance of these accomplishments, both for Michael personally and for his family's journey. The filmmakers also use color to enhance the mood and atmosphere. The contrast between Michael's past and present is represented visually through color grading. Scenes set in Michael's childhood home or the rough neighborhoods he grew up in are typically darker in tone, with muted colors and a sense of desolation. These settings feel cold and oppressive, echoing Michael's emotional state at the time. In contrast, the scenes set in the Tuohy home are warm, with brighter colors and soft lighting. These changes in the color palette reflect Michael's emotional journey as he moves from a place of hardship to one of stability and love. In terms of box office performance, The Blind Side was a massive success, both commercially and critically. Released in November 2009, the film exceeded expectations, grossing over $300 million worldwide on a budget of just $29 million. The movie's success was attributed to its broad appeal. It was a sports drama that transcended the genre, touching on themes of family, love, and perseverance. Sandra Bullock's performance as Leigh Anne Tuohy, in particular, resonated with audiences, earning her a well-deserved Academy Award for Best Actress. The film's heartwarming story, combined with its impressive performances, made it a box office hit that continued to draw audiences long after its release. In conclusion, the filmmaking techniques in The Blind Side played a crucial role in shaping the movie's emotional resonance. The use of camera angles, sound, editing, and visual elements all work together to create a cohesive and powerful storytelling experience. These techniques allowed the filmmakers to immerse the audience in Michael O'Hare's journey, making his struggles, triumphs, and transformation feel deeply personal. Ultimately, The Blind Side is a testament to the power of good filmmaking, where every technical choice is made in service of the story, and the result is a film that continues to inspire and move audiences around the world. The success of The Blind Side, 2009, can be largely attributed to the remarkable performances by its cast, each member bringing their characters to life in a way that resonated deeply with audiences. From Sandra Bullock's transformative role as Leigh Anne Tuohy to newcomer Quinton portrayal of Michael O'Hare, the film's stellar cast added immense depth and heart to the true story of a homeless teenager's journey toward achieving greatness. Sandra Bullock's performance as Leigh Anne Tuohy was, without a doubt, the cornerstone of the film's success. Bullock, already a beloved actress for her roles in romantic comedies and action films, took on a more complex and dramatic role in The Blind Side. Leigh Anne, a wealthy, conservative woman, is not only the driving force behind Michael O'Hare's success but also becomes a fierce maternal figure, committed to giving him a better future. Bullock's portrayal of Leigh Anne earned her widespread praise, including the Academy Award for Best Actress. She brought a rare authenticity to the character, mixing strength and vulnerability in a way that made Leigh Anne both relatable and inspiring. Bullock's commitment to the role went beyond the acting. She immersed herself in the real-life story behind the film. She worked closely with the real Leigh Anne Tuohy to understand the nuances of her personality and to capture her distinctive Southern charm. In interviews, Bullock revealed that she often sought Leigh Anne's advice to ensure she was staying true to the character. She shared how Leigh Anne would offer candid guidance, not only about how to play her but about life in general. Leigh Anne just told me to be strong, direct, and caring in my own way. She reminded me that I should have no fear in portraying this character. She had the confidence to show love in her own way, Bullock said in one of her interviews. One of the most memorable aspects of Bullock's performance is her ability to embody the tough love aspect of Leigh Anne's character. The Tuohys take Michael in without hesitation, despite their initial hesitations about the challenges of housing a young man who had no real family support. As a mother herself, Bullock tapped into her own maternal instincts, adding an emotional resonance to the character that was impossible to ignore. Her nuanced portrayal of Leigh Anne, who could be tough when necessary but also deeply caring, made the character come alive, resonating with both the film's audience and critics alike. Quinton, a relatively unknown actor at the time, was cast to portray Michael O'Hare, the young man whose life story inspired the film. Aaron's performance was essential to the success of The Blind Side, and while the character of Michael O'Hare is more reserved and introverted, Aaron found ways to express the character's internal struggles and his growth over time. Michael's transformation from a quiet, misunderstood teenager to a confident football player was a central aspect of the film, and Aaron managed to balance the vulnerability of the character with his growing sense of empowerment. In interviews, Aaron spoke about how he worked to understand Michael's journey. Michael had this silent strength. He wasn't about drawing attention to himself. He let his actions speak. "I wanted to make sure I represented that part of him," Aaron explained. The challenge, Aaron said, was not in the physicality of the role. After all, he had the size to portray an NFL player, but in capturing the emotional growth that Michael experienced. From the moment Michael is welcomed into the Tuohy home, Aaron's portrayal of him reflected both the physical and emotional changes the character underwent. He showed Michael as a man learning to trust those around him and embrace his future, which added a powerful layer of humanity to the film. Aaron's performance was often praised for its subtlety. He portrayed Michael O'Hare as a quiet giant, someone who wasn't loud but whose presence spoke volumes. Aaron conveyed the character's inner turmoil with a steady calmness, and this restraint worked well against the more animated, expressive performances of Bullock and the other cast members. In interviews, Aaron mentioned how important it was for him to understand Michael's internal battle, having grown up in a similar environment himself. He explained that the struggles Michael faced on screen were not too far removed from his own experiences, which helped him connect deeply with the character. Tim McGraw, another key member of the cast, played Sean Tuohy, Leigh Anne's supportive and level-headed husband. McGraw, a country music star turned actor, brought a grounded warmth to the role of the Tuohy patriarch. His portrayal of Sean was one of the film's most charming aspects. While Leigh Anne was the one who initially brought Michael into the family, it was Sean who had to fully accept and embrace the situation. McGraw's performance showed a man who gradually came to see Michael not as a project but as a son. His calm demeanor and understated charm made him a perfect counterpoint to Bullock's more fiery Leigh Anne, and together, they formed a believable and likable on-screen couple. The supporting cast also played vital roles in the film's success. Kathy Bates' performance as Miss Sue, Michael's tutor, added an additional layer of support to the storyline. Miss Sue was more than just a tutor. She was an emotional anchor for Michael during his academic struggles. Bates' portrayal brought a sense of wisdom and kindness to the character, and her chemistry with Aaron helped to highlight Michael's vulnerability and his need for guidance. It was clear that Miss Sue wasn't just teaching Michael how to read and write, she was teaching him how to believe in himself. Another standout was Lily Collins, who portrayed the Tuohy's daughter, Collins Tuohy. Though her role was more understated, Collins brought a relatable energy to the film, providing both humor and heart. Collins Tuohy was a teenager living in a complicated household, and Collins captured the tension of a young girl navigating the dynamics of an evolving family. Through her performance, the audience could see how Collins' own life was impacted by Michael's presence, and how she began to understand and appreciate the deeper complexities of family and love. But it wasn't just the actors who made the film a hit. The filmmakers' work in crafting a story based on true events also drew praise. Director John Lee Hancock's sensitive handling of the material ensured that the story didn't sensationalize the challenges Michael O'Hare faced. Instead, Hancock focused on the real relationships at play, the bond between Michael and the Tuohy family, the way Leigh Anne's unconditional love changed his life, and how the whole family supported Michael as he found his place in the world. Hancock emphasized the importance of human connection, which was evident in his interviews about the film's thematic focus. He discussed how the story resonated with him because of its universal message. No matter who you are or where you come from, love and acceptance can change everything. The Blind Side had an overwhelming impact on audiences, many of whom were moved to tears by the film's portrayal of love, empathy, and perseverance. Critics praised the film for its inspiring message, strong performances, and emotional depth. Sandra Bullock's Oscar-winning performance as Leigh Anne Tuohy was widely acknowledged as the standout, with many lauding her ability to balance compassion with fierce determination. But beyond individual performances, The Blind Side resonated with viewers on a much deeper level, offering a portrayal of family and success that transcended the sports genre. Audience reviews of the film were overwhelmingly positive. On platforms like Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, The Blind Side garnered praise for its uplifting story and the authenticity of its performances. Viewers often shared how they felt moved by the Tuohy's decision to take in Michael and help him reach his full potential. Many viewers expressed admiration for the film's portrayal of real-life issues. Some reviews even mentioned how the movie inspired them to be more compassionate, echoing the sentiment expressed by the Tuohys in the film, that anyone can make a difference if they just open their hearts and minds to those in need. The Blind Side encouraged people to re-evaluate their own perceptions of others and to consider how small acts of kindness can have a lasting impact on someone's life. As the years passed, The Blind Side continued to have a place in popular culture. Its story of family, perseverance, and success is one that continues to inspire viewers to this day. The performances of Sandra Bullock, Quinton, and the rest of the cast remain some of the most memorable aspects of the film, with each actor bringing a unique and heartfelt portrayal to their respective characters. Through their collective efforts, The Blind Side became more than just a movie. It became a source of inspiration, a reminder of the power of love and support, and a film that continues to impact audiences around the world. After an incredible journey through The Blind Side, 2009, reflecting on its powerful story, unforgettable characters, and remarkable filmmaking techniques, it's clear why this movie continues to resonate with audiences worldwide. From the heartwarming real-life story that inspired it to the outstanding performances that brought it to life, every aspect of the film contributed to its lasting impact. At its core, The Blind Side is not just a sports drama. It's a testament to the power of kindness, love, and perseverance. The journey of Michael O'Hare, a young man who overcame incredible odds to achieve greatness, is one that continues to inspire. His story, intertwined with the Tuohy family's unconditional support, creates a narrative that transcends football and speaks to the deeper human need for connection, acceptance, and second chances. The film masterfully showcases how a single act of kindness can transform a life, making it a story that lingers long after the credits roll. One of the most remarkable elements of the movie is Sandra Bullock's unforgettable performance as Leigh Anne Tuohy. She brought a unique blend of fierceness, warmth, and unwavering determination to the role, making it one of her most celebrated performances. Her portrayal not only earned her an Academy Award but also cemented Leigh Anne as one of the most inspiring cinematic maternal figures of all time. Bullock's ability to balance the character's tough exterior with deep compassion added layers of authenticity, making Leigh Anne's journey just as compelling as Michael's. Quinton's performance as Michael O'Hare also deserves immense recognition. His ability to convey Michael's quiet resilience and emotional depth allowed the audience to truly connect with his struggles and triumphs. Without excessive dialogue or dramatic gestures, Aaron brought a sense of quiet strength to the role, making Michael's journey from an overlooked teenager to a rising football star all the more powerful. The chemistry between Aaron and Bullock was a driving force behind the film's emotional weight, and their on-screen relationship felt deeply authentic, mirroring the real-life bond between Michael and the Tuohys. Beyond the lead performances, the supporting cast added depth and richness to the story. Tim McGraw, playing Sean Tuohy, provided a grounded and heartfelt performance, complementing Bullock's commanding presence with quiet strength and humor. Kathy Bates as Miss Sue, Michael's dedicated tutor, brought warmth and encouragement to the story, reinforcing the idea that success requires both emotional and academic support. Each character played a vital role in shaping Michael's journey, emphasizing that true change comes from a community of people willing to believe in someone's potential. The film's setting also played an important role in shaping the story's atmosphere. The contrast between Michael's difficult past and the warm, inviting home of the Tuohys visually reinforced the theme of transformation. Cinematography, lighting, and production design all worked together to highlight the differences in Michael's world before and after meeting the Tuohys. Whether it was the football field, where he slowly gained confidence, or the Tuohy home, which became a safe haven, every location in the film was carefully chosen to reflect Michael's emotional journey. One of the reasons The Blind Side resonated so deeply with audiences was its ability to balance emotional weight with moments of humor and warmth. While the film tackled serious themes like poverty, education inequality, and racial barriers, it never felt overly heavy-handed or forced. The humor, much of it coming from Bullock's sharp delivery and the Tuohy family's natural chemistry, allowed the audience to connect with the characters on a personal level. The film's emotional depth was heightened by these moments of levity, making it a story that felt both inspiring and deeply human. Behind the scenes, the making of The Blind Side was just as fascinating as the story it told. The dedication of the cast and crew to authentically representing Michael O'Hare's journey was evident in every frame. From Sandra Bullock immersing herself in Leigh Anne's world to Quinton working to capture Michael's reserved yet powerful presence, every performance was crafted with care and respect for the true story behind the film. Director John Lee Hancock's vision for the film ensured that it remained true to its real-life roots while still delivering a cinematic experience that captivated audiences. The film's release brought both critical and audience acclaim, with The Blind Side becoming a cultural phenomenon. It performed exceptionally well at the box office, grossing over $300 million worldwide, a staggering success for a character-driven drama. The film's financial success was a testament to the strength of its storytelling and the universal appeal of its message. While some critics debated certain aspects of the film's portrayal of race and privilege, most agreed that its heart was in the right place, and its message of kindness and perseverance was one worth sharing.